Well, I say every day it's a getting closer to taking a bath with my fucking toaster.
We're not qualified.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience.
I understand. Did you not listen? Then the hell with you.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the 131st episode of Screaming Into the Void, the show where we talk about whatever the hell we feel like. My name is Samuel the Infamous, and joining me today we have the inimitable Caucasian Sasquatch.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be using our NPR voices today.
Oh, we can definitely do that. Do you want to talk about pottery and how it can change your life?
Everything that you know is different now because we've changed. You've changed.
We're certainly not taking any funding from the federal government because that would be wrong.
Because they won't give it to me.
Right? And also, we have
reason.
right. We also have Clifton 3D joining us. Welcome back, Clifton.
Hello, it's great to be here. I'm going to try to channel my inner voice just like the two of you.
Yeah, that's how I got Carrie Smith to follow me on Twitter. Was I sent her that clip of me doing my NPR voice for Gal. It was good times. All right, so welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Before we jump into the chat, reminder, we are live on two separate YouTube channels. My channel, Samuel the Infamous, and also Caucasian Sasquatch's channel. If you are in either of those places or on Twix or Rumble, do feel free to drop us a chat so that we can acknowledge your existence, as it were. Also, for those of you who've been around for a while but missed the last couple of things I was doing, I am working on some stuff. I'm trying this PNG thing out. This is not a PNG. This is just a virtual background with my image on it. But I'm working on some stuff on some software to see if I can't get something like that worked out, so that you guys don't have to look at like a black circle around me. Yeah, kind of. I'm experimenting with some stuff. I obviously have no fucking idea what I'm doing, so it may be a while. But here we be.
My advice is to bang your head against the wall until something occurs to you.
Right. So, but that said, that's why I'm not doing the whole black circle thing. That's why it looks a little different today. My friend Amira has been bitching at me for about 3 years now, about having just a bunch of black squares on the screen, which is, fair, because a lot of podcasters who don't show their faces and whatnot, a lot of YouTubers who don't show their faces when they do streams like this, you do get a bunch of black squares with little circular avatars in them and stuff. And I could see how that could be kind of boring to look at, but so she got to me. I folded. That's what this is.
So you do have a weakness, and it's chicks. Who the fuck?
I do. That's actually accurate. Yes. Women are my kryptonite. It's not I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is.
It's not just you, brother. There are many of us with you. Legendary and otherwise.
Right. And Mom, if you're out there listening, pretend you didn't hear that.
I mean, think about it this way. It was a woman that took down Troy.
Right? It was a woman who took down Troy. It was a woman who took down Eden.
Yeah.
It was a woman who took down Samson.
Hey there, Delilah.
It was a woman who opened Pandora's box.
And closing it, keeping hope inside. Oh no.
Right? It was like, oh, thanks so much for that. That's like all this evil let loose into the world, and the one thing you managed to hold on to was a little bit of hope. Anywho, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We do have some things to go over today. There's a couple of things I'm debating on whether or not we'll actually talk about today or not, because it's very, very recent information to me, but we'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and say hello to the chat first. First up, we got Scotty Waddles. Welcome in, brother. Good to see you. We got
Hey, now.
007. Yes, I'm skipping you. You're on the panel. Fuck off.
No, it's just what Scotty Waddle says that on every comment everywhere ever is hey now.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. We've also got Lepo in chat. Lepo de Fleur. Good to see you. We have Ben T. We've got, let's see, scrolling down. You guys had a full-on fucking conversation in here before we got started. We've got JB with us today. Hello. Aaron Laura, who has said some vile things in the last couple of podcasts. So we have Lucy Morningstar. Welcome in. Always nice to have the whole reason we're here on Earth and living through this hell in the first place in the chat. Thank you for being here. We have Snark and Sass. But by the way, for those of you who don't know, I'm not even a Christian. I'm just like having a little bit of fun with Christian lore. So we got Scully Pop.
But, hey, if you stick around a little while, you might get lucky and have Jesus Christ show up in my chat.
Right? That happened once. It was wild.
Yeah, no, that dude cruises through the internet, blessing everyone and generally being a cool guy, as far as I can tell.
Indeed. We've got Real Wade Nation Gaming Clips with us today. Hello. Good to see you, man. We have DZRT Goat. I'm assuming I'm not supposed to pronounce it as a single word. Desert Goat? Okay, I got you. Oh, like a Judas goat or a scapegoat.
Well, he's one of them there auditor types, what the greatest of all time types. You know what I want. You know what I mean. You know what I'm saying.
Right. And we also have Zatoichi444. Welcome in, dude. Welcome in. So
Zatoichi.
Cool. Damn these XX chromosomes. Right? Oh man, yeah. So this should be an interesting one. We are probably not. We're under a little bit of time constraints tonight, so it's probably not going to be a 3-hour show, folks. But we'll do what we can. There's a few things going on in the world that a lot of people are up in arms about. Yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. Actually, just before I got here,
we'll go with
yeah. So I'm gonna start here. So just before I got here, I was actually having a conversation with an old friend of mine, and this old friend of mine is working for my sister. And for those of you who don't know, my sister runs a novelty shop, and what that means is she sells some kitschy stuff and some like crystals and beads and incense, but she also sells dildos. So yeah. It's one of those kinds of shops. And anyway, where I live in Wyoming, right? It's very difficult to get something like that open within city limits in most of the places in Wyoming because of, certain local like morality clauses and that kind of thing. And so they've been fighting so essentially what it is they have to have like only any more than 25% of their inventory that is aimed at the bedroom, right?
Mhm.
And they can't run that shop. It has to be at 25% or less. Right. So
wait, hold on. Is that stock? Is that like stock?
Yeah, it's stock. It's stock. It's total items in store.
Yeah,
so,
all right. Yeah, that shouldn't be too hard.
So what the way my sister deals with that is she buys a bunch of tiny little things to kind of like offset that.
That's exactly
and then
what I thought about. I was like, it's not too bad.
That's exactly how she does it. Anyway, so my old friend is working for her, and I was just down there a little bit ago. It's actually part of why we're running late today because why I'm a little out of breath is because I was trying to get back here in time to start the show. And one of the things that came up was a certain councilman who's allowing his religious beliefs to influence his decision making. And my friend had claimed that this was illegal when it is not, in fact, illegal. It's unfortunate, but it's not illegal. And so that's kind of, I think, where I want to start is like, where exactly do we draw the line in regards to elected officials and their religious beliefs, right? Because as citizens, they are also protected religiously under the First Amendment, same as you or me, right? And it's not easy, or I would say even possible, to extricate somebody's religious beliefs from, every other aspect of their life. It informs everything that they do, right? So, like you get a politician in there and say he's a devout Catholic, unlike the last president who just said he was.
Yeah, you can't
and
do that Easter thing and be Catholic. That doesn't
right.
really that's some excommunicado type shit. Yeah.
Right. So where exactly is that line drawn? Because on one hand, right, obviously Congress can't make any law about that. That's what the Constitution says. Is Congress shall make no law, regarding an establishment of religion. And now this does not mean separation of church and state in totality, right? There is no law, federally at least, that actually does that. That says religion here, government here. That was
So
mentioned in a letter by Thomas Jefferson to a correspondent of his, but it was never actually codified into law. He thought it was a good idea, and I happen to agree with him on this, but it is not a law. And in activating or enforcing people to forego their religious beliefs, to not allow their religious beliefs to inform their decision making, you would be, in fact, in my opinion, trampling all over their First Amendment protections as well. Thoughts?
Yes.
all right. So that whole separation of church and state thing is a federalist point, and it kind of went out of vogue around the mid 20s or so. And largely it is honored in spirit. Like, you don't hold church in a courthouse. You don't, I mean, even
Sure.
in the most extreme of like natural disasters and whatnot, you will not find a church holding church in a courthouse. You will not find them in the unless it's a commons meeting room. You won't find them in the city council doing it. But in some cases, the city council meets in commons room, and that's a little different. But in any event, largely speaking, your religious convictions and activations are largely not honored in the ratification and codification of the law, right? So if a highly religious Catholic or Islam leader were elected, they couldn't go on to enact laws specifically codifying certain religions as better or worse or whatever like that. That's where the separation takes place, not on the person. The person can believe as they choose.
Sure. I agree with that. I mean, and that's the thing is like obviously they can't hold church services in like Capitol Hill, for example, right? Not state sponsored church services. Like if a private church group wanted to like rent out a ballroom or whatever, if they have one of those there, they could do that as long as there wasn't any like official state funding or ties or any of that stuff involved in it whatsoever. So it was just interesting to me that she brought that point up, and I was just like, that's actually an interesting kind of topic. Is where is that line, right? Because you're going to get people who are going to. I mean, look at our vice president, our current vice president, JD Vance. His religious beliefs are very much at the forefront of everything he does. He makes no bones about that shit. But he's also not going around saying, we need to make laws to make sure that all of your kids go to the same church. Mine do, right? And I think there's the divide right there.
Yep.
And further, if he tried to make such laws, even Trump himself with executive order, that wouldn't fly for no more than longer it took for the Supreme Court to meet. They would call an emergency session immediately and strike that shit down.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's
Yeah.
just how that was. I mean, before that, the ink was dry on that executive order. Somebody would have filed it with the SCOTUS to have an appeal. Like, that would not fly. Not even for 30 days. I don't believe it.
And I'm curious, Clifton, is there like you live in Germany? Is there anything like that on the books there, or what's it like over there?
So in Germany, the church is basically out of politics. Now, there are political parties that associate with the Christian church. CDU is Christian Democratic Union.
Okay.
But I mean, looking at their policies, they're definitely not Christians.
Did you? I was just going to say, did you say Christian communist?
No,
That's
Christian Democratic
That's what I heard.
Union.
Christian communism. Gotcha.
Yeah, okay.
It's not either of those
Same
things.
shit.
in the
Basic-
states, in the states, there's no difference.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, yes. Basically, yeah. Recently, the leader of the CDU came out in favor of stopping what's going on at the border. And so he's been called a Nazi, but that's just because we're going to have an election here in like weeks.
Right.
So that's fun. But yeah, no, the way I believe that worked, the separation of state and church, was because Great Britain has their own church, like the state, that their church is the state. And a lot came over to the United States and were like, yeah, no, we don't want that shit anymore. And that's what the separation of church and state is, just basically keeping the state out of the church, from how I understood it.
All right. Yeah, it's just like it's small talk. I mean, obviously, we could go on and on and on about this forever, but there was just an interesting little thing that came up right before the show, and I was just like, huh, well, because she was telling me that it was illegal, and I'm like, it's actually not illegal for a councilman or a congressman or whatever to vote in line with their religious beliefs. Furthermore, it's constitutionally protected that they do so.
Right.
Like they can't mandate that you believe the same thing they do. That's
Right.
what the
They also
Constitution
can't. Well,
protects.
they can write the law. They can propose the bill. They can try to get votes for it. But not only will they not get votes for anything like that, but the second that stuff gets anywhere near passing, SCOTUS will just freaking explode,
Sure.
implode, something. They do something.
Right. Well, and I mean, talking of SCOTUS, what's I can't remember her name. The most recent female justice that was appointed, like the whole Catholicism thing was a very, very big part of her confirmation hearings, right? Because they went after her about that. It's like, oh, she's just gonna, force us all to be Catholic or whatever, which she hasn't done, by the way, at all. She's been fairly impartial, as impartial as one can be in a situation like that, I think. But yeah, obviously it's influenced her decision making. It's not. Again, it can't really be separated. Like we all have an innate sense of morality, right? Of right and wrong. Whether or not we choose to listen to that sense, that's a whole other thing. But everybody's got that innate sense in them. Where it comes from, like there's endless debates on. I don't think that matters. I think what matters is that it exists and that we are here now dealing with it. And I think in a lot of. I think we'd all be better off if, regardless of religion, if politicians voted their conscience, as opposed to their checkbook.
A politician's conscience is for sale, sir. That's what makes
what I'm
them
saying. Like,
politicians.
Yep.
Take that shit out of the equation entirely. Make it punishable by death to
just
bribe.
remove money from politics.
Yes, just pull it out entirely. Pay them,
It is on
like a bare minimum thing, if anything at all, because this is a duty and not a career, right? And I think
Exactly,
you'd
I
see a
agree.
change. I think you'd definitely see a change, a positive change. So,
Term limits.
oh, Ketanji Brown, yeah, okay, so that's not the one I was thinking of, but yeah, she also allows her personal shit to influence her things, like they all do, right? Hers are just less agreeable to me.
She's the full woke one, right?
Yeah, well, she's one of them. The other one's Sotomayor.
So, right.
Who I would argue is probably actually crazier than Brown is. Brown obviously couldn't answer the question, "What is a woman?" during her confirmation hearing, but which is hilarious because she is one. But okay, I don't know, man. I think that the way things are set up, as the founders set them up, I think is probably the best way to go. It's like, have your beliefs, yes, they're going to influence your decision making. They're going to influence, how you, approach any given topic, right? But as long as the First Amendment is observed and everybody else's religious freedoms are also, respected, and I know there's some debate on that topic too, especially in Europe, Clifton, like where you're at with a lot of the incoming people who do not share the local religion and who think that everybody should convert to that. England and France come to mind.
But rather
more
insistent
than
is
Germany
the main
does.
issue we have. They
Right.
insist.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here in Germany, the Christians just bow down to them. So, I mean,
Right.
through that.
So that's been a thing. I've said this for like a while now, but fucking modern Christians have no teeth. You guys wonder why you get trampled on everywhere you go, right? Like in any given setting, you guys wonder why? It's because you guys took that turn the other cheek shit in the wrong way, right?
Yep.
Turn the other cheek does not mean slap me again, daddy.
Yeah,
Right?
no, you're
Turn
not
the other
supposed to
cheek
sub
means
out to the
what
other
else
people.
you got, bitch.
Right. It means I also have a sword after both cheeks have been struck.
Right?
It's the Crusades, bro.
That shit is like that's why you're getting beaten. That's why you're getting chased out. It's why your churches are being burned. It's why all this stuff is because you have no teeth. No one fears you, right? People don't make fun of Muslims because they fear them, because we know Muslims will act violently.
I remember, was it 2016 or 2015 with Charlie Hebdo in France?
Yeah, that
Where
whole
they
thing was
came out
super
with
fucked up.
where they came out with a little comic strip about Mohammed, and the offices were attacked.
Yeah, and the guy who drew it
Crazy.
was shot dead in the street like a dog.
Yep.
The government.
Or that what was it? There was a teacher, I think, also in France, who said something negative about Muhammad, and they fucking beheaded him on the internet.
Yep.
So like and there's a reason that nobody pushes back against these guys, is because they will kill you, and publicly and brutally.
Yep.
Right. And I'm not saying that that's the way. I don't think that should be the way anybody does anything. But honestly, Christians, this is why you're losing.
It's
in a lot of places.
Here in Germany, it's almost daily that you get a news update about a Muslim attacking with a knife or shit like
Yeah.
that. And that's why I'm
You should really
kinda
get those guys some guns.
well, the Mustache Man Party took away guns.
Yeah, well, shit happens. I'm just thinking, bro. Go with it. You go with it. Don't pay no attention to me. I'm just here.
Clifton, do you know Anson Knowles here? He's calling you out.
But don't be like Clifton, smash the like button instead of smashing Rosie Palm and her 5 sisters. Who's that?
That'd be your hand.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Rosie Palm, like when
Okay.
you get friction on the skin.
Okay, I understand that, but
I don't know what this is about.
Dude,
I don't know either.
I met Anson a couple of weeks ago, and he's been nothing but ticklish to me ever since. I don't get half of what he says, but then again, it soaks in later. Sometimes I realize, oh, I'm just a moron.
Right. Well, so Adam87 here says soft-hearted fake gay Christianity versus a warrior death cult. I mean, yeah, essentially, yeah. Like going back to the Episcopalian service that the newly on an inauguration day, right? All that whole rant she went on about, like, trans kids fear for their lives, and immigrants are scared to death and do the right thing by them. They're praying to the same God you are, and all this shit. And it's like, yeah, no, that kind of weakness is exactly why we're in the position that we're in now. You know.
Yep.
So
There comes a point
it's
in
just, it is what it is, I guess.
especially when it comes to nationality, because a lot of people want to pretend that nations don't exist, that borders are just lines on a map, and that there's no point in trying to enforce them. At some point in time, tolerance becomes a crime.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That tolerance, when you tolerate illegal activity, that tolerance is now abetting. What's the saying?
Right. And
Evil prospers when good men do nothing. This is a period of good men doing nothing.
yeah, it absolutely is. You know, we look the other way while you know the evil happens, and that serves nobody in the long run except evil. You know, it's something that we're gonna have to come together on, right? Because, like, look, I'm not one of those guys that goes around saying that this is a Christian nation. Like the United States is a Christian nation, and you know, Christian values. It's like we were founded on certain, you know, Christian adjacent principles. Sure, I'll give you that. And I think that a lot of the things that come from the actual tenets of the religion are not bad things, right? Particularly in the form of at least 8 of the 10 commandments. The first 2 I don't give a fuck about, but after that, you know, like not killing, not stealing, not, you know, not lying, honoring your parents, like these are good things. You know, and for
Definitely.
the record, by the way, the not killing one, that was mistranslated. It doesn't say don't kill, it says don't murder. There is a difference.
Murder. Yes, there's a huge difference there, because this absolves those in warfare or in defense of one's family and whatnot. You
Right.
know, it's
You
a
know, but
big
there,
difference, and it's a bad translation in a bad spot. Somebody who wanted to stop evil men from doing evil overreached a little bit in the translation department.
yeah, or there's that. There's also the fact that certain ancient languages like Aramaic and Latin and Hebrew don't directly translate into English anyway. So like that
That's
sometimes there's not
exactly
a
what I
one-to-one
mean.
parallel. Yeah.
It's not, and people read it and go, well, but the translation says this, and I'm like, yeah, but that word,
That's the
it also
closest
means lost.
approximation. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's you know, we've discovered that there are a number of things that were mistranslated not because of incompetence, just because the analog doesn't actually exist in both languages. You know, so like
especially when you're transcribing from like from Hebrew to Coptic to Greek to, you know, there's a
right,
lot lost there, bro.
yeah, it's sort of like an ancient telephone game,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Definitely.
So, but you get things like that, like those 8 of the 10 commandments. I'm not so much concerned with the God's ones, because I think, frankly, that, you know, that's ego on his part. But but that aside, you know, there are good things that were taken from that and applied to the founding of this country, and I think that we should adhere to a lot of those good things. And I do think that while I don't think this is a Christian country. I think it's probably majority Christian, or at least it was. I couldn't tell you now because I have no fucking idea what the actual population is. Nobody does. We've let in millions and millions of fucking people in the last 4 years. Nobody has any idea how many people are actually here. But um you know, it was a majority a Christian country, but it was not solely a Christian country. There are a large number of atheists, there are plenty of agnostics, there are a lot of us pagans, there are, you know, Muslims, there are Hindus, there are Buddhists, you know, there are, I probably, to a much lesser degree, there's probably Shinto practitioners running around. We know for a fact that there are Vodun practitioners running around, you know, largely in part due to the fact that some of those practices originated in some of our southern states, not the whole religion, but parts of it did, you know. So, but there are certain things that we should all be coming together on, right? Like the sovereignty of our nation, the safety of our people, you know, the willingness to fight back against ideologies that are destructive to all of us. And I might remind you, right? And I'm not applying this to all atheists, but I am applying this to fucking Marxists and communists, right? They are anti-faith, right? Faith to the state. That is it, right? And in order to achieve that,
Yes.
they have to destroy the faith of everyone else. They're not just coming after you Christians. They're coming after all of us. This is a common enemy. We should all be fucking standing shoulder to shoulder to fight.
Definitely.
Facts.
I mean, wasn't it before the election that we heard that the Muslims were going to be siding with Trump?
Yeah, in a lot of places they did. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that's what we have to do.
So yeah, and you know, and that goes for you atheists out there too, man. I know you don't have like a deity or what you would refer to as a religious belief system or whatever. But the fact is if you're not paying obeisance to the state, you're also their enemy.
Yep.
And here's the thing about that. They don't care what the state says or does or how heinous the behaviors of the leaders are. They simply believe in this ideal and will enact it until it actually impacts their own life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, man, I used to believe in the melting pot ideal, right? I did. I believed in it. I
still
believed
do.
in the greatness of it. It's in people from all over coming together to create a singular culture that stood above all the others, right? But that requires assimilation. That requires, that we give up a piece of who we were in order to become what we can be.
Well,
And
we're supposed to take the good stuff that they bring, and the bad stuff, they're supposed to be like, no, we don't want this anymore.
So
That's
like
why
soft
we came here.
tacos. We take the soft tacos and the pita bread, but not the criminals and the gangbanging.
I mean,
Exactly.
Okay.
yeah, you can put it that way. Yeah, I
Okay,
would think.
here's a plan. Here's a wild idea. This is really controversial. What do you say? We start by ignoring the illegal aliens and focusing specifically on the criminal illegal aliens. Good start.
I mean, I think in the end we're gonna have to get to all of them, but I do agree that the criminal ones, the ones who are actually like actively causing harm,
Right.
They need-
Okay,
yeah,
so you
they gotta
hop
go
the
first.
fence, you swim across the creek, you're over here. You're paying taxes, you're working, you got 3 kids and a wife and all that cool stuff, right? You're doing the thing. We're not worried about you, but your son who's out there gangbanging with a bunch of thugs might have an issue.
Yeah. So, well, Adam 87, the current pope is a commie, so that tracks.
Yeah.
Because I honestly I feel really sad for my Catholic friends, because they got saddled with a pope who is actively trying to destroy their religion, and that sucks.
Yeah. It actually
So,
really weird. The German Pope that we had before.
mhm. Yeah.
He seems to be a pretty good guy. Like everything that I've read up, like I didn't pay attention to him at all when he was Pope, but since his death, I've been looking into him, and
Hold on
he's-
now. I lived through part of that man's papacy, and as I remember it, he was
Well,
making
he had a very
rather
short one.
yeah, he ended it.
Yeah,
He was
he walked
basically
away.
driven out. He was driven out.
Yeah, Benedict, Aaron Laura, thank you.
Yeah.
Pope
What I'm
Benedict.
getting
Yeah,
at though is he was having some really weird conversations about the possibility of aliens and whatnot. And it wasn't exactly the usual dogma as I remember it. Or am I mistaking him for a different pope?
I
Um,
believe he had some of it, but there was just so much infighting in the church at the time.
yeah.
And
So
yeah.
there's been 3 popes in my lifetime. There was John Paul II, who everybody on the fucking planet loved, whether you were Catholic or not. He was a good
Yep.
dude.
Yep.
And then when he passed away, we got Benedict, right? And Benedict was only in for a couple of years before he got driven out essentially by ecumenical politics, really. And then we got this guy, this current guy. I forget what he's called, but he's from South America, I believe, and he is a full-blown fucking commie seeking to dismantle things. I mean, a lot of people were hard on Benedict because of some things, and also because he grew up in Germany. Like he was a very young child at the time, but because he was alive during a certain Austrian's reign of terror, he got slapped with some of that stigma too, which is stupid because again, he was a fucking child. But yeah, so there was a lot of stuff thrown his way, and he just decided it wasn't worth the hassle or the stress. And I don't blame him. I mean, you know, who'd want that fucking job? You know, honestly. But I don't think that he was a bad guy. I think he was a hard man, but not a bad man, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Is, I guess, because he's not dead.
Right. But hard pope, not a bad pope.
Benedict, he's dead. He died.
Is he?
Yeah. He
Shit.
died like a year ago.
Oh, well, that shows how much I pay attention.
Right.
Yeah, his close confidant or whatever, I'm not sure. He's bringing out the book.
Well, I'll say, boy, it's been a long time. I say it's been a long time since I went to confession.
I went to confession once, which is amusing to me because I am not, nor have I ever been Catholic. I just wanted to see what it was like.
Did you actually tell him of anything that he considered sins, or was it things that you considered sins?
I made up some horrendous shit. No, I was fucking with him.
No,
I was like a 15-year-old dickhead, man. I didn't know anything from anything, and I just was out to hurt the world. So, you know?
Yeah, I went to when I had my first communion. That's when I last did a confession, first time and last time.
Ah, fair enough.
The only time I ever went to confession, I was about 15, and I was traveling with a group of other kids that were going to like different churches all over the Southeast. This was like the 50th or 60th we'd been to, and I'd never seen a confessional. I thought it was like a neat little thing. There was a little line over there, and I went and stood in line, and everybody looked at me funny, and I shrugged. I went in the room. The dude opened the little thing, and I said, "Is this a cool place to smoke weed, or should I probably go somewhere else?" He said, "Somewhere else, please." I said, "Okay."
No. So I mean, so my history and my experience with the Catholic Church has been kind of spotty, and I don't mean like, you know, on and off. I mean like a lot of not good and some good, right, to sort of balance that out. And I don't mean I didn't get like molested or anything. I wasn't an altar boy. I've never been a member of that church, but you know, growing up, you hear about this sort of thing all through the 90s. There were all kinds of priests and cardinals and bishops getting moved around so that people wouldn't cotton on to the fact that they were doing horrendous things to kids. And we all kind of started to assume that that was true of every member of the clergy of that particular edifice, right?
Mm.
And it's not true. They're not all pedos. They're not all, horrible fucking people. But that was the thing that was in our faces all the time. It was in the news. It was all over the place. You know, everybody heard about this shit. And
as an observation, today it's middle and preschool teachers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what's funny is when you call out this shit that's going on with middle and preschool teachers, are like, well, what about the priests? I was like, we already know about them. That's bad too.
We're working on it. That has been an active investigation for the past 25 years. Now it's time to start yours.
I was like, that doesn't mean we should ignore this. You know? So and one day I met a priest when I was about 17 years old. Myself and a buddy of mine basically broke into the local Catholic church because it was cold as fuck and we didn't have any place to sleep. And we were found in the chapel by the local priest at the time, a guy named Father Og, right? OGG. He took us out to the local Village Inn or fucking Perkins or whatever the fuck it was, and he bought us some pie and some sodas, and we just sat there and we talked with the man, and we got to know him a little bit for over the course of several hours. Right? He never chased us off. He never gave us shit for breaking in or anything like that. He just, was trying to figure out what had gone wrong with our lives and how he could help. Right. That man single-handedly changed my opinion of Catholic clergy overnight because he was a good man.
Mm.
You know, I think he's since become like an archdiocese or like the bishop of an archdiocese or some shit like that. Like he's doing very well for somebody who's taken a vow of poverty. But
Can I tickle your pagan sense of sensibility right quick? Just a little
Sure.
tickle. Og is one of the names of the great creator that predates the concept of a monotheistic God.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. That's pre-Zoroastrian though, isn't it?
It's an old one. It's a really old one, and there's some discussion on how you would pronounce it, but it's generally agreed that it would be Og of some Og, Ig.
Like or Ogum. Yeah.
Egg is another one that's used sometimes.
Right. I think there's a druidic equivalent where they add the
Ogdom.
HAM onto the end of it. Yeah.
Ogda. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Guess
So
there'd be
no,
some-
honestly, that had never occurred to me. It was just his name. It was, whatever.
But no, that's why I was like, wait a second. You were helped specifically by Father Og. Is
Yes.
that not an interesting coincidence there, Sammy boy?
It is now that I think about it, 30 fucking years later. You know? But
He wouldn't happen to have been an old dude with a long beard and a bunch of beads around his neck, would he?
no, he was clean shaven and bald. But he was a good man, and he showed me that that just because he wears the same like frock as the guy, in Boston or whatever, who molested like 80 some odd kids over 40 years, right? That doesn't mean that they're the same person. That doesn't mean that I should be applying. He's actually one of the reasons that I try real hard not to judge an individual by the actions of other individuals who happen to belong to that same demographic, because he showed me that I was wrong about something. And which is, I still have the same feelings about the Catholic Church that I always have. I've always felt that it's done probably more damage than it's done good. I'm not saying it's never done any good, but a lot of the good that it has spread across the world wasn't in fact invented by the Catholics, just stolen by them. Like aqueducts and roads and that kind of thing. And there have been entire peoples wiped off the face of the fucking earth. A lot of people fucking died to get this message of Christianity across the world. Right. You got your Inquisitions, you got your Crusades, which the Crusades are doubly stupid because that's 3 religions fighting over a fucking patch of desert. But whatever.
I hear it has a great Olive Garden.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure that's all it's got.
I mean, we're going to be getting the MAGA stripe, right?
You mean the Gaza Strip? MAGA
That's
Strip?
actually,
dude.
That's our next topic for sure. Because that's one of the things Trump's doing that pisses me off.
Okay, hold on. How much of it is just big, extra loud bluster so that he can slip in some quiet policies on the side that nobody really cares about, right? Like they're good so far. I have no complaints over the Department of Education. Have you seen it recently?
Oh yeah, they're losing
the entire world of .org just became a vast wasteland of funding.
Yeah.
Nonprofits screamed in the night everywhere.
Right.
Bro. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah,
I don't even.
It's all over, bro.
Yeah, and I don't even think that Trump cares to do anything in Gaza. I think it's maybe partially, let's talk about this instead of all the people that were going to move to other countries in that time. And just more negotiations.
But also, if he makes bluster about Gaza, even if he doesn't do any of the stuff that he says he wants to do, even if none of that comes to fruition, perhaps the Panama Canal and the Greenland question gets answered while nobody's looking, right? He's playing media games against the media. And so far as I can tell, nobody knows what's going to happen next, and it's freaking glorious.
Yeah, that's why I'm okay with him saying this.
Yeah. Blue Unicorn pops in and says Israel first is what MAGA always says. Am I right? Well, I would disagree with that because I am MAGA, not MIGA. Make America great again, not make Israel great again. As far as I'm concerned, any foreign nation, including Israel, needs to, have the apron strings cut. If your nation cannot stand on its own, it does not deserve to survive.
They can become a state, though.
And I would apply that to every nation on earth, including mine. So I'm not interested in getting involved in a millennia-old conflict that's never going to fucking end. That's not our problem. It's not our circus. It's not our monkeys. Fuck them all. We need to back out of the Middle East entirely, all of it.
Yep, I agree. Honestly, everywhere. Like, I'm in Germany. There are so many Americans here, and I know that if Trump went and said no more Americans, no more military in Germany, that's going to crash the economy here.
Oh, shucks.
But you know what? We deserve it.
Well, no, see, the thing is both economy, just about every economy on earth has been operating on inflated currency for the past, since 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since they opened the floodgates and decided fiat currency was the answer and just free money. Inflation still hasn't caught up to the actual amount of currency that was printed. So
that's true.
Germany's been doing it since 2015.
Right. To Clifton's point about Germany, though, if there is a people on earth who is used to economic crashes and recoveries and should be able to recover, it's the fucking Germans. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
not going to happen because, I mean, just looking at history, Germany and the Weimar Republic, what did they do? They printed and printed and printed. And it just, yeah, you would go get money at lunchtime, a freaking sack full, and by dinner time you couldn't be able to pay your dinner. And that's basically what we're doing right now.
Yep. So cool is in the chat. What's up, bud?
Yeah. But it's a thing. We gotta be, we need to be independent of all other nations and their interests. I honestly apply that to every nation on earth. If you are not acting in your nation's best interest, then you should not be a part of that nation. And if your nation cannot survive on its own, then maybe it wasn't meant to be. I'm sorry. That's just the facts,
but it can become a state. Just call me. We'll work it out.
Germany basically is a state. It's a vassal state of the United States, right?
Well, I mean, if you're just going to grant us global hegemony, I'm not going to turn it down. In fact, I say we increase the number of people protected by the Constitution by increasing the number of states we have in the Union. It is, after all, a union. Aren't y'all part of a union?
I mean, a failing one.
Oh, ours isn't.
So I don't know. That's something that I'm not happy about. When Trump went and said, like, oh yeah, we're gonna go in and create the Gaza Riviera. Like, obviously, like, you know how he gets. Sometimes he says some shit and it's a troll. And you're right, Sasquatch. Sometimes it's just a, hey, look at what my left hand's doing, so you don't see what my right hand's doing, kind of thing, until it's too late. And I understand that, but the problem I'm having with it is that we should not be involved in this conflict at all. It's already come out recently, especially with the USAID crap, that we were funding both sides of that fucking war, and we shouldn't have been funding any of it.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be involved in other people's conflicts, in other people's border disputes, in other people's internal shit. We should not be meddling in the affairs of a sovereign fucking nation anywhere on earth any more than we want people meddling in our affairs, right?
I agree with that on its surface. We should not officially be doing any things you should have said. All of that should be handled by the CIA and offshore.
Well, that's what the USAID was. It was basically a slush fund for CIA fucking destabilization movements.
But it was more than CIA, bro. There was so much money going through that. It
Right.
can't just be CIA. It has to be CIA, Homeland Security, NSA, you freaking name it.
Well, and a lot of it was never making it to these places in the first place. It was ending up in the pockets of fucking shitheads in Washington, right?
Yep.
Right.
And that's like take the $50 million for fucking condoms for Gaza, for example, right? Obviously, some of that was going to get over there. Some of those condoms were going to be bought, but there's no way that they're going to. They don't have enough explosive materials to turn $50 million worth of. You know how many condoms that is? Like, you could build a bridge to fucking Mars with that many condoms.
I guarantee you, it was not the ones with the reservoir tip. We're talking the cheap ones with the bell end.
Right. And it like I said, like there's no way they were going to be able to use all of those condoms for explosives. That's like not till the end of goddamn time, right? So some of that shit was never going to make it over there in the first place, right? And on the surface, when you look at that, you're just like, oh, why would you send like people who don't know about the fact that they were using these to make incendiary devices? Why would you send condoms to a Muslim country where everybody's either a child or married?
Or a child and married.
Right, but either way, right? There's no reason for they would never use a prophylactic, right? They have no use for something like that.
Yeah,
in a
no,
sense,
that was
other
my
than
first thought. Hold on, there's not a single religion in that quadrant that would accept those condoms as anything
Right.
other than explosive
Right.
aid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
You know?
bullshit on its surface. There is no redeeming this particular one.
Yeah, you know, it's just I don't know. The whole, you know, we were there was something about like $36 million, and I'm not sure about the numbers here, so don't quote me, but $36 million for a transgender themed comic book in Brazil. Right? It does not take that much to produce a comic book. I'm sorry that.
Hold on. It does if you don't know anything about comics, nothing about writing, nothing about collation, and nothing about printing. It might take that much to get up to speed because, you know, probably didn't have a comic book industry to start with.
Couldn't you just take one of the comic books that we are printing and just translate it? Wouldn't have that been?
I mean, yeah, you could do that, but look, I think it wasn't
Cheaper.
about the comic itself. It was about distributing it. Like they were going to eat the cost on production and distribution because it was about the message. They were trying to get that message out there. Most of the stuff you're looking at with
You
the
said that
USAID
wrong.
stuff.
Let me say that right. The message.
The message. You know, but you know what I mean. It was in a lot of these countries, a lot of these smaller countries, especially with that tend to lean more conservative anyway. This was about undermining them. This was about spreading the virus that has overtaken the U.S. and infected Europe and Australia and all these places and spreading it every fucking where else. It was the only reason behind any of this stuff.
It's almost like, I don't know, there's some global entity funding and driving these things somewhere that operate in the shadows and nobody really knows about, except we've got a list of names that are doing exactly that thing. And I think it might be related, but nobody wants to hear that part.
Yeah.
Germans love Klaus Schwab.
Yeah, well, so does King Chuck over in England. Loves him so much he just can't bring himself to wipe off that jizzy milk mustache. LePost says the one that irked me is the money to Gamergate. Yep. It was a fuckload of funding going to things like that, to things like Politico, to things like fucking the various
Politico makes sense. That's propaganda. That makes sense. Gamergate tells you how deep the rabbit hole goes, bro. Like for them to even care and to decide to take advantage of this situation, this means the entire concept of feminist frequency, the entire concept of what was it the gamer girls were doing? They were bully hunters, bully chasers, cyber chasers, or whatever. Bully hunters, I think, is what they called it.
I think bully hunters is.
But it tells you how deep it goes, because for it to get to such a, and honestly, it was kind of peak gamer culture at that period. If it was going to happen, that's when it would have happened. It's like BMX in the 80s, or skateboards in the 90s. Extreme. Exactly. And so that was sort of peak gamer period. And so it kind of makes sense that there would be a total freaking psyop run right through the middle. And half of us watching Gamergate take place, we're looking at this going, this is totally a psyop. You mean to tell me that this is an organic event, that all of this took place and this much propaganda was propagated off of it? Yeah, no, where's that big red button that's X to doubt? Is it over here?
Yeah. But it's like every day you wake up and it's like, all right, can we have a list of everything that's come out? 'Cause it's just so much and it's unbelievable.
Well, think about it, Anna. If you look up and realize that every government in the world is operated by these idiots that are running Gamergate shit all the time, you might look at a legitimate leader and go, you know what? World domination doesn't seem that bad. We get these idiots out of here that aren't doing anything worthwhile. Maybe we'll take a singular world dictator. But I don't see it coming anytime soon. And it's largely because I don't see people in Japan, people in China, people in Europe, and people in North America, South America agreeing with a single individual. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let me know if I'm roboting at all. I had some funny business happen with the connection a minute ago.
Mine too, dude. Mine froze up 3 times in a row. I thought I'd been kicked out. But you sound fine.
What's the next conspiracy to come true? Flat Earth? No, flat Earth is fucking empirically provable to be wrong. That's just that's lunacy.
All right, so I have no issue with flat earthers on its surface, primarily because you'll never find a pilot or a surveyor or anybody like that. Anybody that builds buildings over a certain height or fires weapons that involve a Coriolis effect or do anything that involves the curvature of the earth in accomplishing it accurately, none of these people will question the shape of the earth. Right. Mm-hmm. So on a technical side, you have a winning hand. Whether they believe the earth is flat or round, it doesn't matter. The mechanics still works. Right.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. No, I just I take issue with the fact that people are, actually believe that, because I myself have been in planes at 37,000 feet, right? From the ground, looking straight up at night on a clear night, I can see galaxies, right? I can see that far because there's nothing obstructing my view. At 35,000 feet over Nebraska, I still can't fucking see Beijing.
Right. No matter how high you fly.
Yeah.
Australia is always
not on the same flat plane.
But birds don't reel.
Right. So yeah, it's just, I don't know about this flat Earth nonsense. I mean, it's as conspiracy theories go and as wacko beliefs go, it's actually really harmless. It's not hurting anybody, So I don't have an issue with
hollow Earth concept. Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. It's harmless. It's harmless. Yeah.
I knew a guy years ago who full on believed in the Pellucidar or hollow Earth that Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote about in his Tarzan books.
What was his name? Og by chance?
It was not. It was not.
All right.
I see where you're going with that, but no, but he believed in that, and he believed that the Loch Ness monster was in fact a plesiosaur that had got lost in the caverns in hollow Earth and accidentally found the surface.
All right, so let's take a step back from Edgar Rice Burroughs before we go down that rabbit hole, because this is especially rich in myth and legend, so to speak. The concept of vast caverns being available to occupy inside the earth that we know nothing of is not beyond possibility, and that some of them might be large enough to contain towns or possibly even cities. Perhaps that's not impossible, but an intelligent race living in these spaces would be difficult at best because you really only have access to things like saprophytes, insects, and crustaceans, largely.
Yeah.
Maybe
Real quick
fish.
before we get too deep, for lack of a better word. Um, Anson Knowles, I'm only seeing a fraction of the chat. I realized it's because of you posting a chat on screen. I'm getting fed up with YT. Okay, so part of the reason that you're only seeing the fraction of the chat, first of all, if you go up to the top of the chat and you hit that and you click live chat instead of new chat or whatever, it'll show you everything that is available in that chat. The other part of the problem is we're streaming to 2 separate YouTube channels right now, so you're not going to be able to see everything in both unless you've got 2 screens up.
Which is why I probably sound like a crazy person in his chat, because when I type in chat, it goes to both. And I'm talking to y'all and just randomly saying things over there that have no bearing on anything taking place.
Yeah. If you already did live chat, then the stuff you're not seeing is actually, because you're in Sasquatch's channel, right? And we're also running this on my channel, and so those are the chats you're not seeing. Is they're in that live chat. There are actually 2 separate live chats going. 4 if anybody decides to post anything on Rumble or Twitter. So, but we see all of it. We here on the panel, we see all of it. So
we have everlasting knowledge and total control. Calm down. Your set has been taken over.
Sasquatch's chat is a sausage fest now. It makes sense.
Bro, well, who are you telling? Bro, somebody save me.
It's true.
It's probably all of the gay humor that I do. I probably do too much gay humor to have too many women in my chat, to be honest.
Except for Crystal Phoenix there.
Yeah, that counts. See, you lied.
So, but yeah, this Hollow Earth thing, like, 'cause you remember that discussion you and I had a couple of months ago about other species of hominids and where they might have gone.
Right. I see no reason. I've been thinking on this real hard recently, and I see no reason why there couldn't be a relic population of Neanderthals hanging out in the upper Arctic somewhere. Right. I mean, they just hanging out in some valley. Nobody ever bothered poking their face down, and if they did, they just hid. I don't see why that wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they some of them may have found their way into the deep caverns too. Maybe there's a whole civilization of like cave people down in Hollow Earth.
Bro, did I show you the Neanderthal super predator video?
I think so. Once upon a time,
years ago, I think a couple of years ago, many moons ago. And just to tell everybody in chat, he reimagined the Neanderthal rather than being a surface predator like you expect, looking just like us and having just a different French accent, as more gorilla-like with a hairier body with exactly the same skeletal features, right? And you're talking about an absolute monster because of the larger eyes and the idea that they occupied the caves like he's talking about, which is where we find 90 some odd percent of our freaking Neanderthal bones come from cave situations, almost completely. The only thing we really find outside caves are points and technology, not so much evidence of who used it. Right.
Did you ever see the movie called The Descent?
Oh yes. God, yes. That's one of the influences for the concept, this different concept of the Hollow Earth, right?
Yeah, it's a good movie.
And survive. Have you seen Bone? You've seen Bone Tomahawk, yeah.
No, I haven't watched that one yet. But,
dude, it's just as good as The Descent, and for all the same freaking reasons. It's great.
I will check it out. Yeah. No, but The Descent posits the idea that there is a separate group, and the characters in it kind of think that they wandered down and they sort of devolved. But I'm sort of a different thinking on that. I was like, what if they wandered up?
Yeah, no, the Hopi and the most native traditions speak of coming up from the ground after the last disaster. Noah's flood, whatever, the Laurentide ice sheet, whatever you want to call it. They came from the caves and they populated the land and were here when the rest of the people showed up.
Yeah. By the way, for chat, for those of you who haven't seen The Descent, it's not that big a spoiler. The monsters were in the trailer. Also, the movie's been out for fucking 19 years. So,
Yeah, 20
Yeah, I was
years.
a
So
kid.
there is no spoiler for that movie. In fact, everyone fussed because the monster was in the trailer.
yeah. Yeah.
They all
But
got upset
they were,
because you saw the best film
yeah.
in the trailer.
They were, you know what though? The movie's really fucking good. Great characters. By the way, Hollywood, that's how you write fucking good female characters.
Oh yeah.
Watch The Descent and then write that way, because those were great characters with great fucking, backstories and development and all that shit. But that aside, what these things were they were almost bat-like. They were blind. They relied solely on their hearing and their sense of touch in order to get around. And they were pale as fuck because they had never seen the sun, you know.
But how does that? That's one of the things I kind of have an issue with it. I've sat down and talked to people, okay, that I'm not educated individuals where they're dietitians, freaking. What does a person need to survive, and could they survive underground? And the general consensus is no. And it's because we can't get the specific veggie type things that are required for a decent human diet, right? There are things that don't exist in crustaceans and in saprophytes. If we could just eat crustaceans and saprophytes, it would be fine. But we need some of the veggie things and some of the fats and tallows.
We
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
do, but I mean, we're also very adaptable. If something is missing, then our bodies would probably figure out a different way to mutate so that you could survive.
Tell that to scurvy.
No, that's the thing. Scurvy is a very good example. Vitamin C is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. But there are loads more of little micronutrients that you don't need much of, but you need it, or you have babies with no arms and eyeballs hanging out of their skull and stuff. Like, it's necessary. It's just something you only need a little bit of.
Right. Welcome to the show, Shadow of Hawk. I thought you weren't going to make it today.
So I thought I wasn't. Dinner. Well, we just basically got some barbecue sandwiches at a local place, and then chatted for a bit, and then they had to head out so they could be on the road before too dark. So that was nice.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
man.
Fair enough. Well, that's always nice. Time with family is good.
Yeah.
Speaking
of
so
family,
let me
to clarify.
let me ask you a question, since you're just coming into this conversation sort of blind.
Gotcha.
Elock or Morloy? I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Eloy or Morlock?
I was wondering about
Eloy
that.
or Eloy or Morlock. Well, when I hear Morlock, I think Genlock, which I think is from Dragon Age. So Eloy.
Oh, okay.
We shall
He's an Eloy, folks.
devour your soul. We will enjoy
Okay.
your heart upon our spits as it smokes slowly over the fire.
I don't know what that is.
I'm gonna
Good
explain.
evening, Aaron.
Oh my
Howdy,
god.
Anna. I'm gonna Google what this is. Memelock is what you said?
No, I'm
No,
just gonna
not
tell you what
Memelock.
it is.
Eloy.
Watch
ELOI.
Read The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. It explains everything. Essentially, dude builds a time. Actually, I'm just gonna fucking say it because the book's like fucking 140 years old. It's spoilers, whatever.
Spoiler alert.
So anyway, this dude in the 18th century, right, builds a time machine, and he uses it, and it takes him like something like I forget the exact amount of time, but it's something like 12,000 years into the future. Right. And when he gets there, he finds this perfect little society of these perfect, beautiful, almost elfin beings running around in like skimpy shit and eating fruit and drinking wine and having sex and playing fucking
Wow,
Foursquare
it's
all
the
day
Garden of
long.
Eden with a group instead
Right.
of just two people. It's
And
perfect.
they're all small and they're dainty and they're childlike, both male and female. I mean, they're not children, but they're like, little beautiful people, like little elves or gnomes or whatever. And it isn't till later on that he discovers every once in a while something happens. One of the Eloy disappears, right? Middle of the night. Nobody ever sees him again. So he goes investigating. He finds a series of caverns. And in his caverns, he finds great machinery that produces things, right? That produces everything that the Eloy need to sustain themselves, right? Because they don't produce anything. They just play all fucking day. right? Perfect little commie society. Everything's provided for them, but it's provided for them by another race called the Morlocks, who live deep underground, who are giant and shaggy and powerful and hideous, and they run all the machinery that provides for the Eloi. And the only thing that they ask in return is that once in a while they get to come up and snatch one or two of them for dinner.
Isn't that just Plato's Republic without the warrior class and a bit more cannibalism?
Well, no,
Not
see
far
that
off
what this
the mark,
is,
but
what this sort of, but what this is this is the divergent evolutionary paths that humanity takes in the future, because
right,
both of them
12,000 years.
share
One
common
group,
ancestors, which is us.
there's I did when I was in high school, I had this insane literature teacher who would sometimes bring in, like, after having us read a particular book, he would bring in a particular movie to compare the differences and whatnot. And the specific part that he focused in on was the implications of the scenery in this particular, I can't remember which one it is. I'll go dig up the year. But in almost every version, the same thing's true. The big machines that you're talking about are being maintained by the Morlocks. But when you go and look at Morlocks, they don't look like the type of creature that might build these things. You know, they are descended from us, but are not us. So
They're
what's
devolved almost.
maintaining? They have devolved. They have devolved and have. I don't know if you could call it cannibalism at this point. They are orcs. They are
Well,
dark
they're essentially
elves
two different species at this point, you know.
at this point, right? But my question, the question he posed to me was this: is there any hope for the Eloi without the Morlock at that point?
No, man, they're gonna run out of resources and fucking die off. The
Yeah.
Morlock
And then
is
the Morlocks are so predisposed to consuming simple cattle beasts that don't know how to run away that if they lose the Eloi, then they would be unable to exist.
I know
either.
they just eat each other. They're violent and
They can-
cannibalistic anyway.
Really?
yeah,
They
could
really are
probably
orcs.
just eat each other. Yeah.
They're orcs, pretty much orcs.
Now, keep in mind, this was in a science fiction novel that came out in the 1800s, so this predates a lot of your notions of
1895.
like orcs and genlocks and that sort of thing. And yeah, I think somebody said in chat that, like, I think was this a Star Trek episode? I think they did one that was inspired by it. Yes, LePo said that. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
A
Also,
lot of
it
things.
feels like a very generic trope as well. Like, hey, we have the super nice society where everything's amazing and nice, and then you look down and then there's the fucking disgusting mutants who deserve to be down there.
I think it was sort of a visual dissertation on the lack of function of a communist ideal. You can have a utopia, but only if you are completely capable of subverting yourself. Remember, the horns would blow and the entire Eloi herd, except for the children, would get up and walk into the big booths until they were full, and then the doors would shut and the horns would go off. They'd go back to frolicking in the garden again. All of the trees were fruit trees, all of the vines were fruit vines, all of the grass and everything else was there for comfort and use.
Also, wouldn't it be
I think
Oh, sorry.
that Wells was actually criticizing the utopian ideal with this novel. Because
Right,
his
that's what I'm
main
saying.
character is fucking horrified by everything about the society and does everything he can to escape and get back to his own time where people are fucking sane.
Ish.
I
Which,
also feel like
in the early parts of the novel, he has that discussion about how everyone is so selfish and nobody does for others. There's an altruistic thing at the very beginning of the novel. I forget what it is.
Yeah, and then he gets his theories basically shoved in his face in practice, and he hates it.
I also think, based off like how you guys have described it in the Wikipedia page I read, there's also like a bit of a commentary about kind of like, and I sound like a fucking leftist for saying this, but like how dominance and oppression can eventually be like flipped around, where the Eloi originally basically had the mean locks doing the labor, doing the hard stuff, as while the Eloi got to like exist happily. But then over time, due to their comfort and the suffering of the mean locks, the Eloi became the resource, became the tool of the mean locks, where in the food source.
All right,
they're the
Morlocks, bro.
Morlocks. What have I been saying?
Yeah.
What have I been saying?
I
Genlocks?
said
said
mean
men-
locks, which is a little different.
Mean lock. Mean lock. That's a D&D thing. Mean locks are D&D.
Yeah, that's not what we're
Morlocks
talking
are
about,
what we're talking
Morlocks.
about.
though. Like,
Morlocks.
I would
Morlocks.
reference you again to the movie Wall-E, for example. Right now, if the people on the
Wall-E.
ship got up and ran around and played all day and weren't fat, that's essentially what you get with the Eloi, right?
Yeah.
Is people who have their every need attended to them, but never see what actually goes on in the bowels of the ship, right? But now you take that and then you apply to the bowels of the ship, to the robots and all that, as sort of malice, right? That doesn't actually exist in that movie. But if you apply that, then you get a pretty accurate representation of the ideas that were espoused in Wells's novel, The Time Machine.
Wasn't this also a supernatural arc?
Dude,
Yes.
there's a
Dude,
lot of people.
H.G. Wells
public
is one of the first science fiction authors. He inspired a lot of shit.
Oh yeah.
Yes, a lot of shit. And he did it several times through several different writings that he did.
This is the guy who wrote War of the Worlds. This is the guy
Yes.
who wrote The Invisible Man,
That
right?
book.
Like,
Yes.
It's a great book. I fucking love that book.
you know.
Yes.
So yeah, he
Read The
inspired
Time
a
Machine.
lot
You'll
of
love
shit.
it too.
Yeah.
You know,
He's one of my
like,
arguments for time travel.
it's one of the things that drives me nuts about talking to Zoomers about this stuff is they're like, wasn't that more like this thing, this more recent thing that happened like 130 years later? That thing that was directly inspired by the thing I'm talking about. You know? So it's like,
Right.
no. You got to take your literature, take your
By the way,
you know, yourself back further. Start reading some of the stuff where all this came from. Start reading Wells. Start reading Verne. Start reading Poe.
Verne, Jules Verne, bro.
Shelley.
If you haven't read
you know,
Jules Verne, you're doing yourself a disservice.
I've read Howard. Does that count?
Okay, well, I mean, love, sorta, only a little.
Hmm.
I mean, if
Yeah,
there is a trifecta of sci-fi generation, it would probably be H.P. Lovecraft, Jules Verne, and H.G. Wells.
Yeah, and Lovecraft himself was actually partially inspired by things that Wells wrote. Like more guys like Algernon Blackwood and Robert Chambers than Wells, but there was some Wells inspiration there, particularly like with the Martians and War of the Worlds. Is very, very much right up his alley, you know. But that kind of thing, yeah. Like
actually, the whole virus, the random freaking cold bacillum taking out the freaking aliens. That is another form of like existential horror that is beyond most people's consideration. Yeah, sure, they were invaders, but they were ready for anything except nature.
Yeah, except for foreign bugs. That's, I mean, they got taken out by the goddamn cold virus.
Which, I mean, to be fair, is not entirely unrealistic. Like, we invaded Afghanistan with, like, one dude in our military who knew to speak Pashto. The viruses would easily be overlooked in a planetary invasion. No, we overlooked it in our mission.
We gave the aliens some blankets.
The one fucking good thing FEMA did.
See what you did there.
I used to work with this chick who was Native American, and she had a great sense of humor about that sort of thing, because we used to talk to each other. It's like, hey, yeah, you know, well, come to my birthday party. I was like, yeah, I'll bring you some blankets. She was like, yeah, I'll trade you some beads for them.
Great. It's not this at all, bro.
She
had
a good sense of
you.
humor about it.
Canceled. Yeah. No, I'm not selling Heinlein short. I'm just saying he's like you say, he's more modern. I'm talking about the original OGs of like the concept, the Tolkien of sci-fi, right? You've got
arguably,
Herbert.
Yeah. Arguably the first science fiction novel was Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley, published in 1860.
Yeah. That's
I mean, unless you accept the Mahabharata and the Vimana as spaceships, and then suddenly there's a huge and rich history of fictional sci-fi that's available.
About like the Hindu claims that they knew all science 6,000 years ago. I mean, yeah, I guess you could qualify this as science fiction.
No. But to be fair, they got a lot of stuff apparently, like I give the Indians a lot of shit, and they kind of deserve it most of the time. But credit where credit's due, they got a
They
lot
put
of
it in the street.
shit right. What?
They'd shit in the street, bro.
Oh, they absolutely shit in the street, but for a time, their classes were like they were writing about stuff like black holes and string theory and shit, apparently. So, like, credit where credit's due, most of them have less IQ than Coco the gorilla, but the few of them that are smart are actually very skilled.
Jesus Christ, dude. Just I
Have you
don't.
not seen that? Have you not fucking seen that
Wait.
meme?
I don't. Yes. No. We're not. No. No, sir. Stop it, Egg. Just quit it.
So
Honestly, my
Bush says,
brain hurt.
I hate that pox-ridden blanket lie. If anyone said people were sick because of invisible bugs, they burn them at the stake. Germ theory didn't even exist when the colonists showed up. So I didn't mean that germs didn't exist. The fact is, a lot of people did die of that. I happen to agree with you. I think that most of that was unintentional. But yeah, that's and it also, in the context of the conversation we were just having, right? When you're just telling jokes, it's fine.
But it's an
You know?
excellent bit of propaganda lessons for you, right? The propaganda built on those freaking blankets. You know, those blankets have records. You can go to the records and find out when they were used for what and what took place to them between the point in time they were used and the point in times they were gifted. And you'll find out two things. One, there was already smallpox in those tribes. Smallpox is very easy to contract, and anyone who went outside of that area and came back would probably have come back with smallpox. The blankets, even if they were infested, which is a distinct possibility, they weren't given the amount of incubation time and how long they can remain on the surface. It's not impossible that a fresher blanket was in the mix, but it's unlikely given the way the army loads everything. There's records of all of that stuff, dude.
Yeah, also, like, wasn't it a case that the vast majority of natives that like were dying of disease died before you even saw like a United States westward expansion? Like, because I remember, if I think it was it the fucking Mayflower people? Like, there was some group of colonists where they made their town not because because they basically found an already abandoned village. Like everyone had like already died and been picked off by scavengers, and it's like, well, yeah,
Think
we don't know
about
what happened here.
what was it, Francisco de Sparo, whatever his freaking name was. He supposedly sailed up the Amazon, and his Jesuit priest that was traveling with him, scribe is the guy who wrote about all of it, claimed there were thousands of little cities, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little villages, all of them occupied by a plethora of people on their way up the river. But on their way down the river, they found nothing but pyres and empty villages.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's not one that a lot of people like to talk about. But now he also said he saw a phoenix with his own eyes, and that that there was a giant lizard-like predator in the woods that he saw one night. So like not everything he said was completely accurate, but I do believe that given the speed with which smallpox kills, especially in an unprepared population with zero immunity, yeah, no, that 90 some odd 6% mortality rate, you're talking about on your way upriver, the place could be packed. And on your way downriver, a week and a half, 2 weeks later, you are past the point where the actual infection has killed the people that you first contacted and has moved on to kill 3 or 4 generations away, so to speak. The pandemics are very easily mapped out in that way.
Right. Anson Knowles had said that hold on a second, I got to bring it up. The Indians got us back by giving countless generations of the entire world lung cancer. I'd say that's probably a fair trade, you know.
I hadn't thought of that. You've got a point, sir.
You know, they packaged it in syphilis.
Syphilis is one of those wonderful examples of cultural diaspora, so to speak. You have to consider, what was it, like 198 people came on that first freaking voyage, you know, made landfall, and then went back to freaking Europe. Out of that 198 people, at least one of them crackers got syphilis. Next thing you know,
Mhm.
2 years later, it has already made it from both the poorest man to members of royalty. That shit spread like wildfire, bro.
Yeah. Bush says they thought tuberculosis was created by bad behavior. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, prior to that, they also thought it was demons, and the way to let the demons out was by drilling a fucking hole in the head with an awl. You know, which
Well,
yeah, that would cure whatever the disease was because you're dead.
Dead. At
They,
very
they
least, you have an
go a little too
infection.
deep sometimes.
that reminds me of like a really, and this is kind of off topic, but a really funny anecdote in a book I read about the Crusades, where you had like the record of a Muslim doctor being like, so I went to the land of the Franks to teach them medicine and to help heal their people, and I was told by one of their doctors, no, we know how God's medicine works, and someone comes to him with a headache. He proceeds to carve a cross into her skull, and when she dies from it, he says, "Well, I guess the demon overpowered her before I could save her." Next person,
Yeah.
please.
No, it's like
Christian-
figuring out a witch. You tie a bunch of rocks to the bitch and you toss her in a pond, right? And if she sinks, you know,
She
she
wasn't a
wasn't a
witch.
witch.
No,
Mhm.
hold on, no, but that actually does work.
No, that's not how you do it at all. What we need is a duck, sir.
No, see, I know a dude. He did it with his ex-wife, and she floated.
She turned me into a
That's-
newt.
She,
Well, I got better.
she was a bad bitch with that big booty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh well, you know, she drowned, so she wasn't a witch. I mean, it sucks that she's dead, but
She'll
you
go to
know, she
heaven.
wasn't a witch and her soul is saved. Oh, she floated because she can swim. Witch.
She
Burn her.
happens to be a dominatrix that is good with knots.
Right. I mean, they didn't typically burn them because it's very difficult to burn somebody who's waterlogged. Most of the time, they would just hang them. But yeah. No, it's just, oh man. This is some fucking world we live in, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's wild. It is wild. And we live in a wild time, man. I mean, like, half of the stuff that Trump's done in the past few weeks were all enacted by executive order. And by using executive order to just deconstruct it, while I mean, what's going to happen when the next Democrat gets in office and he tears all this down brick by brick and tries to reinstate some new version of DEI that's what inclusion, equity, and diversity or whatever, and it's just some ramshackle, or is it going to come back together more fluidly in a better finalized state because they've already had a good practice run at it?
or
That's
are we
my
gonna
question.
find ourselves in a situation where, due to a ongoing emergency, term limits need to be repealed, followed by it just so happens that Baron Trump happened to win the next election. Are we gonna see Kaiser give Augustus authority? Who knows? I'm excited. It's gonna
I,
suck. It's
s-
gonna.
I s- I don't see another Trump winning. None of the children are as bombastic as the father. Trump is an icon in and unto himself. I'm not a Trumper. I am not a Trumper. I personally am not a huge fan of his base politics. He's basically running on a mid-90s liberal platform, and that doesn't strike me as terribly conservative. And that being said, I do agree with a lot of his fiscal policies and his management of methods of tariff. These are negotiation tools that have been too long ignored.
Yeah. I agree with you I agree with you on everything except mid 90s. I would argue mid 80s personally.
No, mid 80s was trickle down. Mid 90s was inclusivity. We did the inclusivity thing and that worked. And when you add diversity and equity to that, it just breaks it. Mid 90s was like they functioned on legal migration was the way they were trying to manipulate the system. It wasn't until the mid 2000s that it turned into like just no holds barred, throw the freaking floodgates open.
So
Mhm.
Lepo's saying there was a Caribbean 7.6 earthquake in the Caribbean just now.
Oh yeah, I saw some of that. Some guys talking about that in a Discord.
Right.
I can
Yeah,
I
they're
think
looking
one
at
of the guys.
tsunami advisory for Puerto
Yeah.
Rico and the Virgin Islands, and
I've got folks on the East Coast, bro. That's like info.
Gotcha. I've got one of the guys I know sent like some charts and some maps into the Discord. Do you want me to like pull it up so you can use it?
Um,
Probably not. He's not that adept at it. I'm not in control.
yeah, no, it's it'll be fine. But like, yeah, if you're, I guess, if you're out there, if you're in an area that could be affected, which I assume is not just limited to like Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, but probably Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, that sort of thing, you're probably going to get a little affected by that too. It looks like South America is going to get hit too, Brazil. So
Damn.
that's just fucking take shelter as best you can, I guess. I don't know. I'm not the guy to take advice from on that shit, but according to YouTube anyway. But yeah, if just keep an eye out, listen to the local reports and all that shit, because these things can be pretty fucked.
That particular plate has a tendency of falling.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's one of the plates the pirate town was on that just suddenly was destroyed in a day and a night, just like
wasn't that
Atlantis.
Tortuga?
Yeah, it was there one day, and the next day, some random Admiralty ship sailed by. Was like, and there was nothing. Handful of survivors on a freaking rock floating around on what was left of the pirate ships. Like, wow.
Wait, so it was an act of God that ended the age of piracy in the Caribbean.
That is what is credited with having ended the age of piracy. Yes, was simply the partial sinking of the Bimini plate.
Deus fucking vote.
Yeah, it could also just been a thing that happens.
Well, there was a reason.
Required.
Well, there's a reason why the pirates were there in the first place, and it is exactly the same reason they lost it. Previously, Tortuga was a decent town for, I don't know, 60 years or so, and then an earthquake dropped it. They lost their port, and the port basically came up to where the square was, and so all the buildings got tore down, and they ran out of money, and they abandoned the thing. And so later, the pirates come along a year later and find this basically functioning city just sitting there with nobody owning it because the governor didn't exist. The island wasn't freaking occupied by actual people that the crown recognized, and they just showed up, set up shop, and it became the pirate paradise for 90 years, I think. And then one
literally
day,
free real estate. Literally free real estate. That's fucking great. Can't get deals like that in this economy.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Oh.
So this looks like it's a good deal further south than I assumed that it was.
Yeah, this is off Honduras.
But that doesn't mean that y'all should. Yeah, that doesn't mean y'all shouldn't be prepared out there wherever you're at in the world.
Texas looks like it might be a straight shot north.
Yeah, Texas, Yucatan. Probably Florida to some extent, but it looks like it's going to hit Jamaica pretty good, and Cuba.
Well, it kind of matters what actually happened to the plane. If it's subsumed, if it rebounded, whether it was just a lateral fault. If it's a lateral fault, nothing will happen. It just there's no real change.
Yeah, if you're in a potentially affected area, just be careful. Take whatever precautions you need. I mean, I'm sure that this wouldn't be the first time something like this has happened wherever you're at, but still, be safe, be careful. As much as I bitch about other countries and all that stuff, I don't actually wish any harm on anybody else. I really don't.
Except the French.
I mean, I think being French is probably punishment enough.
Really, though? I mean,
yeah.
So, I think they're punished plenty for being French. I think that they're not punished enough for being French in the face of me.
Don't worry. I think Clifton's people beat enough of a punishment into them for that. It's in their DNA now at this point.
I live 30 minutes away from France. It's just
see.
Hey, what's up, Easy Scott? Look at me, girl.
Yeah. So yeah, that's thanks for letting me know, Lepo. I'll keep an eye on that. I don't know. I'm sure it's probably going to be huge news here shortly.
So what you're saying, I should grab my surfboard and run?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I surfed a tsunami before, bro.
See, I'm excited for people for like the news media and all that shit to be like, this is why Trump getting rid of USAID is a horrible fucking idea because now we don't have the means to help these foreigners and save the. Well, why should we can't even like the most we can give our own fucking people is $700 and a half-hearted hand job in places like North Carolina or Hawaii. Why the fuck should we help these countries that aren't even us?
North Carolina didn't get any hand jobs. What are you talking about?
Not one
I said
hand
a
job.
half-hearted hand job, Sam. Hawaii got one. North Carolina
they didn't
I
even get
averaged
that.
a half hand job.
They got. You know what happened in North
job-
Carolina? No. Stop talking. This is what happened in North Carolina. They were promised a half-hearted hand job, right? And they were promised one, but then they had to get online in order to sign up for it, right? And they got on the website, and the website said that they couldn't make it work through there. So then they had to go complain to a government official in person, and then they got referred back to the website. Nobody ever actually got a hand job.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my hand job, and that bitch come right over the top of my house. It
There
flattened
was-
this entire freaking culture, bro.
There was a helicopter full of ladies of the night that was heading up that mountain to give some fucking hand jobs out. And you know what? FEMA shut that shit down.
Damn right.
Bro,
God's
Squash
honest.
doesn't get his hand job. Squash doesn't get his hand job. I don't get
I
my
had to
hand
pay for
made.
my own hand jobs.
Fuck, dude. Yeah. Maybe
Jesus
Trump is
Christ.
Reagan. Maybe Trump is Reagan.
Jizzman in Space. Next week, for an episode of Jizzman in Space, you'll find out whether or not FEMA delivered those hand jobs.
Okay. I said this in the fucking private chat. Sam, I'd be willing to help with this. You gotta make a fucking like monthly Jizzman comic, like 6 panels, like an old like an early 1900s comic strip.
You mean
just
the
like
Twitter
post it,
group
like, on-
chat?
Yeah, I said that in the Twitter group chat. I think it was
Yeah, but you keep saying private chat when you mean Twitter group chat. I keep looking at the private chat here on fucking StreamYards, and there's nothing in there. Be specific.
Yeah.
No, my bad. I meant the Twitter chat. I think it was one of Devil's.
Yeah. It's
It probably
know,
got
it's-
buried.
no, I saw it. I did. I just kind of dipped out of the conversation after everybody decided to lose their minds over what I said in there. So
My fault.
yes, it is. I blame you.
Yes. It unironically, it is my fault.
So
Like not shitting around, not self-deprecating, not trying to take the flag for someone else. No, unironically, it was my fault. Yay.
yeah.
Hmm.
So anyhow, no hand job for you, like ever.
Good. I don't want one from you.
I wasn't going to give you one, but I might have hired a nice, pretty lady to do it for you.
Or
Oh,
God
no, you
Rostella's a
don't
pretty
do
lady.
that.
What
both
was
know.
it
I mean-
earlier? Rosie Palm?
Yeah, Rosie. I would dress Shadow up as a pretty lady, sure.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's more on brand with you.
I bet Stiletto Hills and make
We're
his
gonna-
legs look amazing.
No,
We're gonna put you out on a corner, and you're gonna work that. You're gonna make me that money.
no.
I may have to bring back the pimp squad bit.
Just bring lots of chapstick, and you'll be fine.
pimp squad. Hey, you gotta bring me my money.
I need to find someone who's like, I'm turning 22 this May. I need to find someone who's 21 to bring on panel for you, so they get all this shit instead.
Won't work.
Oh, you think that's how that works?
I
That's
absolutely
not-
think
no,
how that works.
You will find out that person knows more pop culture of the specific era that we joke about, and you will still be stuck out on a limb by yourself.
Bro, most of the people I know who I would invite don't even fucking know what like Conan is. They don't even know what fucking Starship Troopers is. They barely know what Marvel is, and that's mostly because they know the movies.
I like a good Marvel movie.
The newer ones aren't very good.
Instead of a good one. Sorry.
Hey, Gal, good to see you. Sorry you couldn't make the panel. Also, shut the fuck up.
Tell the woman to shut up.
I don't know that
She's a
one.
Marine. She can handle it.
It'll be all right, bro. Or until she gets angry and decides to invade your compound.
You know
I
what a
mean,
beam lock is?
see, Mexico. I hate you, Laura. I mean, to be fair, between attacking Sam and attacking Mexico, I think Mexico has significantly more profitable gains for Gal in that regard.
Yeah, it's also going to be an easier fight.
Yeah. Alcohol, Latinas, and a special cran factory? Factory. Cran factory. Fuck. Why can't I speak English?
I don't know.
You never learned.
Correct.
I don't know. Conan loved hand jobs from cave women. He did, in fact. He did. One of my favorite phrases from that whole franchise, which I don't think is actually in the book. It might be in Queen of the Black Coast, but I don't think it's actually in the books. I think it's in supplementary stuff later. Is when he frees the slave girls and one of them says to him, "Take me and crush me with your love."
Okay. He just grunts
And then he
at her.
does.
He's like, "Ugh."
And then he does.
Basically based.
I don't think that would be Queen of the Black Coast because I think Bellet would have killed him for that.
Good luck.
Bellet was totally subservient to him by the end of that.
I need to reread that
Totally.
one.
Totally. She started out with the upper hand, but when he showed her who he was, right? Yeah, she shared everything with him and all that stuff. But yeah, by the end of that, she was his woman, not the other way around.
Hmm.
All
To be
right. So
fair,
I want to propose this to you. You are going to lay with Conan every night and not be subservient. How do you think that's going to work out for you? I like that silence. It's awkward as hell, ain't it?
No, because
It
I'm
is.
thinking about it. Because I mean, like, if you actually pay attention to Conan, one of the things about the character is the fact that he tends to treat women far better than the civilized men do. Because unlike the civilized men, he's got an honor code, things like
Oh,
that.
yeah. No, you're not wrong. He feeds the hungry when they're hungry right in front of him, and he'll just throw some meat over at them. He's not nice about it, is the thing,
Yeah.
right? So when you got some highfalutin cooch over here who thinks she's all that in a bag of grits, he does not treat her with respect because that's what she expects, bro. Think it through. You are the wife of Conan. You lay with him every night.
Yeah.
Who's the boss?
Yeah, it's Conan.
I mean, he absolutely is. Because if you're a bitch, then he's just gonna go find someone else.
If he
Well, he might
chooses
break
to,
you
he'll
first.
do that anyway, but he'll break you in and give you to his dog.
I don't think he would.
Yeah, I
No,
think
you're
he
far
really
too
would.
pretty for that. I know.
No, I'm talking about his moral code. Fuck you.
He was a
moral code
thief,
is-
bro.
His moral
A
code is
thief.
I'm gonna do what the fuck I want.
His moral code is might makes right, bro. Yeah, he might believe it's good to be nice to orphans and good to be nice to
No.
widows.
See, this is what Howard believed, and this is, I think, where you're getting it confused. Like, Howard believed that civilized men were all inherently liars and deceivers and poisoners, right? That they would smile to your face while they poisoned your meal behind your back. And to a degree, yeah, he's absolutely right about that. He respected barbarians like Conan, who weren't nice people. These were not necessarily even good people, but they were honest about them planting an axe in your face.
Yes, absolutely.
It was the honesty. It wasn't the morality.
Well, with Conan specifically, and this was mostly because, like, even if Howard didn't want him to be a hero, he still had Conan be relatively heroic. Conan, like, he never like forces himself on a woman. He never takes.
He doesn't
what
have
wants.
to.
Yeah,
No, there are plenty of moments where he's like he wants a
Hold
woman.
on.
and she just
Wait a
doesn't give her
second.
to him.
Let me explain. That you got to back up and kind of look at this from another perspective. The first time, okay, you're a young girl in a milking village over here in an area that was conquered by some dude who's an asshole and worships snakes last week, right? And then this other guy shows up, right? And he shows up like, nah, ignore that dude because now I'm in charge because I killed all of those guys, and you're pretty hot. How do you respond to this? The last guy burnt the joint and killed everybody involved. This guy just burnt his joint and killed everyone involved with him.
You know what, Squatch?
What are you gonna do?
This just occurred to me, Squatch, and I think you'll agree. And Clifton, I don't know if you've read any of these books or not, but if you have, you'd probably agree as well. Now that Shadow knows Conan, right? And I assume by extension, like Cull and Solomon Kane and etc.
I know Solomon Kane from one of the comics I've got, and then I've heard of Cullen. I know a little bit about him, but I haven't like gotten any of his content yet.
Okay. Well, it's similar to Conan earlier time period. Cull is actually an escapee of Atlantis' destruction.
You know, he was a king or something, and it's believed that he is like Conan is one of his descendants, or it's like explicitly stated.
Depending on who's writing it, sometimes he's Conan's father. You know, like he was an immigrant to Samaria, and he banged a Sumerian woman and made Conan. Now that's not like Howard's canon, but depending on who's writing it, sometimes he's Conan's father, sometimes he's one of his, ancestors.
I don't like that. That's retarded.
Well,
I don't like that.
It is what it is. Anyway, now that you know Conan, Squatch, I think will agree with me on this. Now you need to learn about Cohen the Barbarian.
Cohen. Why do I fucking know that name?
This is absolutely necessary. See,
because I think
Conan's a good base layer for barbarian lore, but until you understand the workings of Cohen, I'm sorry, you don't know.
Cohen is the end stage of barbarian.
Yes. I have heard of this guy, but I haven't actually got him about him. I thought you were going to say Gore or something.
No, he took teeth from a living troll. He didn't kill it. He kicked its ass and took its teeth.
He took one tooth. He broke out one fucking tooth. This troll was the size of a mountain, and trolls are in Discworld are made of like silicates and stone and that
mountains.
Sort of thing, right? And so its teeth are diamonds, hardest substance known to man in a world of fantasy, right? So Cohen goes up to him, punches one of his fucking teeth out, and then fashions them into dentures for himself, so he can chew food because he's so
got
sick
a
of
grill, bro. He's so tired of soup.
Because he's really fucking old.
He's like 76 since the last time he stopped Barbarian.
The reason that it's important that you understand who Cohen is because he is the end stage of the barbarian thing. Like, people make fun of him because he's an old man, but here's the thing: he's an old man in a profession where people don't usually live a week.
Right.
He's extremely dangerous.
He is unbelievably vicious.
Yeah, no, so I found it. My grandma gave this to me like a while ago.
That is a brilliant woman. She has excellent taste. You should listen to every word she ever says.
She worked at a library, and whenever they had a book that they were like doing a giveaway for, if she thought I'd like it, she'd just grab it.
Oh no, that was a choice, sir.
I mean, she's also the one that gave me. She's also the one that got me my book on Nikita Khrushchev, as well as my copy of Erhard Rouse's memoirs. So,
this is Cohen.
That is Cohen with a walking stick and a broadsword.
Nice.
You know why he doesn't wear clothes?
Known by some as Genghis Cohen.
Genghis Cohen, that's right. Do you know why he doesn't wear clothes?
Because it's too warm if he does, I'm guessing, or something like that.
No. He tried wearing clothes once, but they wouldn't survive the type of fighting that he does. Like, within a few minutes, they just turn to tatters because he's such a badass.
That is a good naked barbarian trope. It's just not worth the money.
It's not worth the effort of putting them on. I look like a freaking pauper 2 minutes later because some asshole said something and looked at me funny. Gave me that criminal side eye.
Right. Yeah. So it is what it is. But yeah, you need to read Discworld, man. And I'm not talking about the graphic novel versions, although they can be entertaining as hell. But like, start at the beginning. Cohen first appears in I can't remember if it's in The Color of Magic or The Light Fantastic, but it's one of the first 2 books of the series. That's his first appearance. And then he goes on through, he shows up in Interesting Times. He shows up in The Last Hero is actually about him to a great extent. And a couple of other places.
Isn't it him and Rincewind? The Last Hero?
Yeah.
Him and Rincewind? Yeah. And it's kind of a toss-up which one of them it is.
Essentially, Cohen and his Silver Horde, who are a bunch of other ancient-ass barbarians, one of whom is in like the equivalent of an old-ass wheelchair who can't hear shit because he's deaf as fuck.
Yeah, they push him around.
They call him Matt Hamish.
Fucking
'Cause he's-
fucking geriatric con.
Oh, it's so fucking funny, dude. Anyway, they decide that they've had all the adventures, so they're going to have one last adventure, because the first adventurer was Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, right? So Cullen decides he's going to take it back to the gods by climbing the mountain at the center of the world that all the gods live on and blowing them up with a fucking bomb.
Yes.
It's all
Fucking
it's
okay, that's bait. That's kind of fucking bait.
It's
That's some, like,
brilliant, dude.
That's some
The whole
fucking
book.
rapture bait shit.
I'll make the argument that entire book is these old men who have reached the end of their lives have been alive so long through such savage times that they have reached their absolute limit, developed a device that they think could crack the actual freaking reality open, right? And they're going to take it and go bust the gods' asses because they didn't come and give them their Valhalla like they promised.
pretty much, yeah.
Beautiful.
The whole thing's it's a revenge fantasy of the most geriatric kind. It's hilarious.
The guys who have been there, who have done that, who have seen that shit, and every time some really esoteric BS happens that's going to stop them, one of them just reaches over and pulls something out of their bag and goes, "Saw this once in the Netherlands." Done, handled. It's barely a mention.
Right. I think you'd probably get a kick out of a couple of different characters from Discworld. Cohen's definitely one of them, although he's not a main character in the sense. There are 4 types of books, 5 now
Carrot.
if you count the Moist books. Where
Carrot is probably my favorite character.
I would say that Carrot's not even the main character in those books.
He's not even the
Vimes
main
is.
character in his story.
Yeah, Vimes is.
Yeah, Vimes is exactly. But the thing about Carrot is, and Vimes. This is so great. Carrot is the heir to the throne of Ankh-Morpork. He is that guy, right? And he was lost, and then later he was raised by dwarves. He was raised as a full-blood, fully born dwarf because he passed all of the dwarf tests and everything as a dwarf. He speaks dwarf,
Even though he's
6'2", blonde-haired, blue-eyed Prince Charming.
Well, he's got red hair, but yeah,
Okay.
he's and they call him Carrot because of the red hair and because his body is shaped like a fucking carrot, like broad shoulders, narrow hips.
And when they found him as a baby, he was in a vegetable crib that listed carrots among the things that were in the crib.
Yeah.
Carrot.
Yeah. So, and Carrot is just one of the side characters who was supposed to. He's essentially like the main character of any quest fantasy, right? That is who Carrot is, but he's not that important to the story. Like he's a part of it, but he is not the center of it, like ever. And everybody knows he's the fucking heir, right? He knows
has
he's
a
the heir.
superpower. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have any clue. He has no
There are
clue
moments
because it never
where
crossed
he's
his
like,
mind that a
he
king would be
absolutely knows.
necessary. Kings, there are no dwarven kings or another thing entirely, and he's clearly not that. So
Yeah.
when he comes to Ankh-Morpork as just a poor traveler coming to be, join the guard because that's what good men do, right? He comes in and everyone who meets him falls to his noble, his voice of command.
Yeah.
He's in charge in like a week just because he does absolutely everything flawlessly. He's that guy. He's like the dude in Maverick that you want to hate, but he's really that good.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to. He just wants to be a part of something. So he joins the City Watch, and he's content being, just a regular old dude in the City Watch. Eventually, he becomes second in command against his wishes.
Yes, he's promoted through the entire ranks because he's so good at doing what he does, and everyone else sucks at it. Everyone else is just trying to get a paycheck, but he's like over here shining his boots. Yes, but it says in the manual, sir, that we should be appointed properly.
It's great.
I think the way they should
Shadow,
be.
you'd love Discworld. You'd love it because they if there's one way to subvert tropes and not actually destroy them, Terry Pratchett figured it out.
I got to bounce, bud. I got 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna actually wrap up here anyway. So why don't you plug your shit first, then Sasquatch, and we'll.
If you're in my chat, just click the button and you'll be popped right over there. As soon as he pushes the button to end this, you'll end up in my chat over yonder on Sasquatch Shills. That's supposed to be tonight, although I haven't seen my dude yet. I don't know exactly what to tell you. I hope he pops up pretty soon because I'm a little nervous. Because I get nervous. nervous, but that's in about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over there in this when you get ready. And thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. Everybody have a lovely evening. That's Sasquatch out.
All right, brother.
Hey, man.
Thanks for being here.
Take care.
Yeah. So, Clifton, as always, very much a pleasure to have you on. Do you have anything coming up you want to let the good people know about, where to find you? You know, that sort of thing.
So I've recently started making videos again, trying to get back into things. And other than that, you can always find me on Saturdays mornings for the United States over on Anime 101. I'm a co-host. And tomorrow, well, for me, later on today, I will be on with Tom B. So that'll be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tommy's a good dude.
Oh, yeah. And thanks for having me, man. It's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Shadu, what do you got coming up? What do you want to plug to the good people out there?
Howdy everyone, I'm the Shadow of the Hawk. The only stream that I've got coming up confirmed will be next week, Monday night, 8 p.m. US Central Time. That is Sword Coast and Sorcery, the D&D campaign that I've been running. We started back up after a couple month hiatus. It's going well. I'm not going to spoil that actually, but last episode was probably the best episode in my opinion, just by what went down. I do recommend watching at least that one, and if you do enjoy, tune in next week, like I said, Monday, 8 p.m. If I've got time, 20-hour course load and working doesn't give me a lot, but if I do, I will either stream game content or a reading of The Black Company on my channel. And then if you want to see me schizo posting over on Twitter, Shadow of Hawk 55, I'm over there as well. And I don't have a hard locked timeline, but one of my New Year's resolutions is before the summer to finish a book. I'm working on 2 right now, just to kind of like get at least one of those finished. So I will have more concrete information as one of those gets closer to being ready to publish. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
All right.
I am not
Good deal.
Ensign.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Good deal. Thanks for popping in when you could there and getting schooled on literature.
Yes.
As for myself, folks, this is my show, my channel. We do every Saturday, Screaming into the Void, right here on Samuel Infamous. When Caucasian Sasquatch shows up, he does tend to restream it to his channel, and a lot of you guys are watching there. We appreciate seeing all of you in chat very much. Otherwise, you can find me over on Exiled Lioness 2 in a few hours, most likely. I do a show for my buddy Adam on the Renaissance Nerd channel on Mondays called Mellow Mondays. And then this morning or Friday night or Saturday morning, depending on wherever you are in the world, we do a show on my buddy Devil's channel, Beelzehub, called Beelzepub. And then again, here on Friday on my own channel, Samuel the Infamous, my partner Lawrence Knight and I run a show called Abyssal Musings on Friday nights. Otherwise, yeah, I might pop up here and there and, you know, wherever they call me to, wherever I'm summoned to. We do appreciate all of you guys coming out. Thank you for joining us. Hope the conversation was at least as stimulating for you guys as it was for I know Sasquatch and me. You know, that guy and I can go for hours on the dumbest shit. You know, it's always a good time. We appreciate all of you guys coming. Appreciate everybody on the channel. Clifton, I will add your links to the description after the show. Otherwise, everybody else who was up here, you can see their links down below. Yeah, other than that, have a great one. We'll see you all next week. And remember, it could always be worse. It could be raining flaming cobras. Good night, everybody.